meaning for the Zoom session on our second birthday. The book club was founded 2 years ago on a whim, and we have sustained ourselves, we have continued to survive, and I can say we have also grown and matured. So, as we enter the threshold of the third year, we thought we'd do something different. Usually, we are book readers, it's usually fiction that we read. But we thought, let's, have a poetry session. And looking at the responses, I think it was the right choice because the response was quite overwhelming. Usually we have 15 people, but today I think we are nearing 20. Kaveri, you'll have to sit up a little bit because we can't see you. Yeah? Uh, yeah, thank you. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Yes. So the book club has about 70 members, but regularly every month without fail, we read a book and we meet and we discuss. And to keep the book culture alive, we do several things. Most of us are physical readers of books. We try and source it from a library or get it online if that's not possible. We try and get an academic to discuss the book or the writer of the book to be present so that we can have insights. And this kind of sessions have stood us very well, where we cannot call the writer or a special person to discuss the book, a person who's worked on the book in an academic sense. We devise something. Like for a suitable boy, all of us dressed up like characters from the book, and we had great fun. And I think Gauri gave us a very good steering, and we did well. So today we have with us many special guests. We have poet Salil Chaturvedi with us. I will leave it to him to introduce his work, but he will be reading a compendium of poems from his last book as well as the earlier works. Secondly, we have Jessica, who's also a poet writing in English. She will read from some of her works. Astri will read her works, and many of you will. You've not told me personally, but I think you will either read your own work or a poem that you have been touched by in your life. Kaveri Nambisan is here because her husband was a poet and he died a few years ago, tragically very young. So Rahul will be reading two of his works. We have with us Goa's icon, Bhai, who will also read from his work in Konkani and then offer it to us in translation. Margarita, are you also reading your own work?
No, 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 no. I'm reading another poet.
Okay. Tamara, what about you?
I would also like to read
Okay.
someone else's poem, of course.
Okay. So the procedure is like this. Welcome all of you. We will have Salil go in first, introduce his work. Then we will have Bai speak and read his work and introduce the poems. So it's very important for us to know why you chose that work and what is the poem about. Okay. So give us a little introduction to the work and then carry on. As I said, each one of us who's reading can have a max of 7 minutes. Okay. But the special guests are taking a little longer. So we will have to introduce ourselves, the poem that touched us, or the poem that we wrote, and why. Okay, so welcome, Salil, Kaveri, Jessica, Bhai, and all the other regular members. Please, as we follow a particular rhythm, introduce your name and then start off because we are regulars. Over to you, Salil.
Yeah. Hi. Very happy to be here as part of your celebration. So first of all, congratulations to everyone, to the book club. 2 years is of so many books, and we've been hearing a lot about the Margao book club, been written about as well. And during the lockdown. It's been great to have this thing going. So my congratulations. I intend reading a few poems from my book, In the Sanctuary of a Poem. And if time permits, I'm working on another one, which is called Have Chant These Wind. If I have time, maybe I'll read a couple of poems from there. So without much ado, I shall begin. Sorry. With a poem which actually one of the members of our Goa Writers Club, Victor Angel Ribeiro, complains that I never read in public, and he likes this poem a lot. So I thought I'll make amends and read it for the first time to a group of people. Can you all hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, can I suggest for those who are not speaking, if they can mute themselves, because there'll be less interference and we can hear the poet speaking better.
Okay. So this one's called Making the Mistake of Stopping Before a Rendezvous. And this was written while I spent a little bit of time in the Garhwal Hills. And I was there for about 3 months. And as you'll see, it's reflected in the poem as well. Making the mistake of stopping before a rendezvous. Stars spread evenly on still, dark waters. Fireflies mimic them in cavernous cassia trees. The breeze, soft, gentle, is coated with pine. A thirsty deer stoops down to the lake. The thirsty lake takes a long sip of deer. Ripples of pleasure send shivers down constellations. I won't be able to meet you tonight. The second poem is called I Cannot Take a Poem and Collect It in My Palm. Often I write about the the failure of words as a poet to really bring in the world that we are in, and I find words are the only way I have to communicate, but words also fall short so many times. So this is called I Cannot Take a Poem and Collect It in My Palm. I cannot take a poem and collect it in my palm, smelling its damp, humic odor. I cannot hold its tender flowers and shake them gently to pollinate them, or wet it and leave it to rot and turn into rich, dark compost. I cannot bite into it and close my eyes, feeling its tanginess on my tongue, or pick a worm off it, wondering which poem to put it into. I cannot watch it hold another poem in its claws and tear out feathers and intestines. I cannot catch it accidentally jumping off a nasturtium to give chase to another poem. I cannot see it absorbed back into the earth, leaving behind a little damp spot. I cannot collect it off a beach and put it into my pocket and hear it jangle with other poems, nor see it come into a mauve bloom, or track its daily climb up a trellis. I cannot see a poem gliding erratically through tomato plants, figuring out where to lay its eggs. I cannot watch it open one eye, raise its ears to a footstep, and go back to sleep, assured that all is well. Or watch it crawl on its many feet till it makes its way successfully and hides under some brown leaves. But maybe you can. This one's called The Cat. We don't have any cat right now, and we are missing cats a lot because just the other day Monica stepped on a scorpion in the house. And unfortunately, we lose our cats very quickly within a year because there's a python around our house. So we've had 3 cats in 2 years. So yeah, well, this one's called The Cat. The cat is asleep, his head upside down, his stomach wrapped around and warmed by the blinking modem. It's raining outside. Me, I'm open to the world like a weed and happy knowing my hands were shaped by trees. I look out to the universe. Through the window, it's easy to see there's a hole in it. Meanwhile, the cat shifts to my lap. It cares nothing for my abstractions. It knows the truest part of me is my heat. This one's called A Name Is Not a Knowing. Well, this was written when my sister-in-law passed away. We spent a year looking after her. I quit my job, my company. Monica quit her job, and we spent a year looking after her. This was after we lost her. A name is not annoying. You have to hug a tree, feel its bark, the texture of its leaves, to understand how it invents tiny capsules of desire and puts them into seeds with just enough wisdom, not too much, enough to know that the outside is the new inside, that everything that grows is life, that spaces are expanding, that too much of life is but a death, a choking point for a new beginning, and that all beginnings are old, old, old. My sister is now mostly smoke and some ashes, a few tiny bones on a riverbed. She has put the sky below me and the earth above. On the knoll from where I can see that peacock, Mandira. The pink flower bushes, Mandira. The hidden partridges, Mandira. The pipit songs, Mandira. A name is not a knowing. You have to hug a tree. This one's called The Drop. This was composed during one rainy afternoon when I gone to, catch the ferry. I live on an island and we have to take a ferry out or in the island. And I was parked waiting for the ferry and there was a small puddle and the rain was falling, a light drizzle. And I kept watching the puddle. And I was just fascinated by the ripples and the intersections. And then I wrote this poem about the drop and being on the island. The drop. You flip the page, take a shortcut into this poem. The long cut starts from the puddle, near the ferry point, where it's drizzling lightly, where you begin your journey, from the center of a raindrop that spreads in a circle into a ripple, asking you to exist at every point of the expanding wave. As you take the road around the island, perhaps on a bicycle, maintaining your balance as you spread around the central hill. It's sweet, like an ice cream with wavy lines of a syrup, or a broad noodle waved on both sides, wider than fettuccine. And yet, it's a tough ask, trying to be at every spot simultaneously. So it's okay. You take a shortcut, plop, like a raindrop, straight into the score. This one's called Words Are Falling. Like I said, I often write about the inadequacies of language. Words are falling off the page, hurrying along on the floor blackly, now surging along the base of the wall, making their way to the outside, clambering over leaves, climbing up trees, fluttering around a dead insect, clinging to grass blades. The page is clean. I am free. You are free of meaning. But what of the words? Someday, when the sky is full of bulbous clouds and the breeze is playing with the tops of coconut trees, when black-naped orioles are tuning the afternoon to the right pitch, I'll step out gently and gather them and weave them into a basket. Okay, here's another cat poem.
Before
called
we
Cat.
start, Salil,
Yeah.
1 second. There's a little uh, announcement I'd like to make. After 45, 50 minutes, there's a break. You just have to reconnect. Okay, every half an hour, there'll be a break. So you just, all of you have to reconnect. Thank you. That's all.
This one's called Cat Nap. My cat's forte is sleep. He once came back home with a missing thumb and repaired the wound with 3 days of a healing slumber. It is the most alert sleep I have seen. His upright ears nibble at earth syllables. Then suddenly he sleepwalks to another room and chooses a new location. This time, his head is upside down. He's sounding the chatter from the roof tiles. It's thanks to him that I've tuned into the hum of our house. On some days, I become aware of the beat of my heart, and I jump up because it seems like there is someone else living inside me who listens to the chorus of my life and makes his own separate meaning. I calm the panic by closing off my ears with my index fingers to hear the low roar of the wind that coasts through me at all times. Okay, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but this is my final one from the book
That's fine.
called Journeying South. This was after, we love doing road travel, and we've taken a lot of trips from here, that's Goa, up towards Bombay, all along the coast via Bengurla, Devgarh, Ratnagiri. You can go all along the coast. So there's quite a pattern in your travel when you do that, because you have to go up and go onto a plateau, then come down to one river, and then either take a ferry or a bridge, and then just repeat that same pattern. So it's very mesmerizing. So this is while I was coming down from Alibag to Goa along the coastal road. It's called Journeying South. Journeying south, 1,000 miles down the western Ghats, winding up thick mountain thighs, rolling down moist valleys, into the gurgling lap of the mysterious female. Always a left turn to the bridge over the river that stretches like a smile out to the sea. Stopping in the middle, leaning on the railing, silence all around, the river, thousand-tongued below. In the dim light, the pleasure sounds of creatures, the wind passing through my hair, the black curve of an ibis beak bending the evening light. We lie down on the roof of the car and watch the rest of our bodies in the sky. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Salil. It was such a pleasure to listen to you. And we hope all of you have enjoyed Salil as much as I did. I've always loved his poetry. In fact, it's something that I emote to so easily because I love the way he brings in nature into the poem and pours himself into his poetry. So Salil, thank you again. And I think we are running out of time now. I'm going to ask Bai to go next, but Bai, you'll have to mute your mic later on because it's giving a hiss sound. So please,
Yeah, I know it.
yeah, okay.
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please. And reconnect after you're thrown out, huh? Because it's just a routine thing.
Okay, no problem. I'll start with, by the way, I really enjoyed Salil's poems, and it was a very good beginning to this session. Thank you, Savia. I'll start with, I don't know how many of you are converse with Konkani, because I'm going to read out 2 poems, one by Shankar Ramani, is no more now, and another by our legendary poet Bakibab Borkar, B.B. Borkar. So I'll start with Shankar Ramani's poem. It is in Konkani, it is just Kavi, but in English it is titled that he is a poet. He is a poet. It is included in this anthology, 100 Great Indian Poems by Abhay K, edited by Abhay K. So this is about the poem. The poet speaks about what it is to become a poet or to be a poet. So I'll start with the original Konkani. Kavi. तो एकलो एकसुरो कवी तागेल्या मुडक्या घराच्या जनेलांतल्यान दिसता त्या मळबाक दीस रात पळयत आसता. तो सामको मालूक. तुम्ही ताका आपोवं नाकात, उलोवंक वचूं नाकात, ताचेर नदरय घालूं नाकात. पाटली भर शेंकऱ्याची शिंवर तो तुमच्या आंगार, तुमच्या माथ्यार केन्ना घालीत सांगू नज. पूण चुकून केन्नाय तरी तागेलें जनेल जेन्ना निळें निळें मळब जाल्लें आसता, जेन्ना ताचें मळब, ताचें जनेल निळें निळें मळब जाल्लें आसता, तेन्ना दिगंतेची पाखरां ताका नितळ उजवाडाचो साद घालतात. It's a short poem. I'm going to read the translation of it. This is a poem by Shankar Ramani and translated by myself. He is a poet. He is a poet, solitary and lonely. Through the window of his ramshackle house, he watches the sky day and night. He's a completely crazy. He is completely crazy. Don't call him closer, nor talk to him. Don't even look at him. You never know when he would throw on your body a basket full of pebbles. But if and when his window turns into the blue sky. The birds from across the horizon, beckon him to the ethereal light. This is a poem by poet Shankar Ramani. Now I am turning to poet Bakebab Borkar. Probably most of you know what Bakebab Borkar was. He was a very romantic poet of his times, and very much loved because he wrote in both Konkani and Marathi. So he was loved in Goa and outside Goa. And poet Borkar's poems, this particular poem is a Konkani poem which everybody loved. Not only Konkani listeners, but whenever he was away from Goa, whether the Hindi audience or Marathi audience, they always shoot after him, ask with a farmaish to read this poem, to recite this poem. And in Konkani, of course. So it was wonderful listening to him singing this poem, reciting this poem. I would not be able to match him, but I'll try to read it to you.
Yeah.
This is a poem about the protagonist who is now gone old, who recollects the younger days when he would meet his fiancée or his girl or his love under the banyan tree at dusk. So I shall read out in Konkani first. Painjana. Painjana is anklets. Painjana. Tya disa vada kaden gadad tinsana. Mand mand vajat aili tujingo painjana. मौन पडले सगळ्या राना शिरशिरून थारली पाना कवळी जाग आयली तना जमता जमतना पैसुल्यान वाजली घाट दाटलो न्हंयचो कंठ काठ सावळ्यांनी घमघमाट सुटलो त्या खिणा त्या दिसा वडाकडेन गडद तिनसना मंद मंद वाजत आयली तुझे गो पायजणा फुल्ल्यो वैर चंद्रज्योती रंध्रानी लागल्यो वाती नवलांची जावक लागली शकुन लक्षणा
3 minutes 34.
गळ्या सुखा दोळ्या दुखा लकलकली जाऊन थिका नकटना एक झाली आम्ही दोघांही जाणा वडफळांच्या अक्षदात कितलो वेळ नाहीत हुपले कितले इंद्रलोक इंद्रनंदना तातले काय नुल्ले आज सगळ्या जिणी आयल्या सांज तरी अकस्मात तुझी वाजती पायजणा कानसुलानी भोवती भोवर अंगार दाट फुलच्या चंवर पट्टी कन्ना स्वप्ना तीच घट्टी जागरणा मंद मंद वाजत आयली तुझी गो पायजणा. It's a beautiful, very much rhythmic, full of live rhyme, and it would be wonderful when you listen to him singing and reciting. So now I'm going to read out the translation, and this translation is done by Dr. Kiran Budkule, who was the professor of English at the Goa University until last year. So poet Borkar's poem that lived a vibrant life during poet's lifetime, it has overlived the poet, and now it has become an immortal. So I'll start it. That dusky evening under the banyan tree, your anklets came tinkling, oh so gently. The woods in stunning silence were cast. Leaves a tremble, stopped, short and fast. Tenderly woke up the blades of the slumbering grass. And a distant bell pealed far apart. The river bank gulped thick and hard. Shadows then exuded a scent, heavy, quite apart. In the auspicious flowers of the banyan fruits, bathing long, so long, drenched we stood, untold heavenly arbors and celestial balls overtook. None of that to this day had stayed. Life as a whole has all but waned. Yet, tinkling out of the blue, come your anklets twain. Cheeks ablaze with thrill abuzz, goosebumps blossom, thick as fuzz. Reverie often rapture filled, my sleepless night then hugs. That's all, and thank you, Xavier. After a long time, I have joined the Margao this book club session. But I am happy to be here and to be continuing. Thank you very much.
That was great timing.
Yeah, perfect timing, wasn't it? What I really enjoy about Konkani writing is how nature is personified to give it human emotions, touches, tenderness, feelings, everything. And once you understand the language, you really enjoy that beauty most of all. Thank you, Bai, for this wonderful selection. I will now request Rahul to read Nambisan's poems, two of Nambisan's poems. After that, we will take Jessica. Thank you.
Shall we wait for people to join back?
Yeah.
One small request. Can you hear me?
See, they'll get the recording as it is, so let's not waste time. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Admit all.
So just give me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So friends, happy to be here after a long time, really. So and I'm happy that we are doing this poetry special. And Salil, good to see you, and lovely reading, and also I doing the Konkani poets, fantastic. So what I'm going to be doing really now is this is the book cover, and this you can see if I bring a close up, that was Vijay Nambisan, and a very celebrated poet really, and this is his collection, 111 poems. It's called These Were My Homes, all his entire collection, 111 poems, and this is a Speaking Tiger publication, so it's easily available. I definitely urge you all to pick a copy. So I have what I'm going to do really is there are 2 poems I'm going to read, and but before I read the poems, I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from a little essay that was written by another fellow poet and a friend called Rukmini Bhaya Nair. Some of you must be familiar with Rukmini Nair. She's again a established poet, award-winning poet. So Rukmini in July 2018 had penned this forward to the book, but this was written August 2017 is when Vijay sadly passed on, and Rukmini, his friend and fellow poet, has written. I'll just read this out very quickly. In memoriam, first infinities is the title. Last night, Vijay Nambisan startled me into wakefulness at 3:38 a.m. The time fast edging towards 4 in the morning. Sylvia Plath called it that, in quotes, still blue, almost eternal hour, unquote, which produced poems for the ear rather than the eye. Unable to sleep on this oppressive August night, I stumbled towards my computer and began hesitantly to type. In quotes, all morning on the feathered grass, the old peahen and I mourning, full stop. Then I stalled. I had no idea whom or what I was mourning. It was at this point that my husband, sleepless too, came and announced, Vijay Nambisan is dead. Coincidence, doubtless, but Carl Jung, it is reported, once presciently called coincidence the joker in nature's pack of cards. Vijay always had a quirky sense of humor. This, I believe, was his last tease, informing me that he was the subject of my poem, master of my halting words and the most exacting of language mavens. Vijay took language as seriously as he took life. Language was his dangerous elixir. For him, language was no mere tool of communication. It embodied rather the art of survival. It was about everyday usage. The colloquial preference for the borrowed word machis instead of the hot Hindi diya salai in Bihar, to offer just one of Vijay's own examples. But it was also about infinities of meaning, about all varieties of verbal enchainment and enchantment. So this is as much as I'll read of this wonderful essay, and I'll move on to the first poem. He has several collections. Gemini 1 was his first collection of poems, and from Gemini 1, there is a wonderful poem called Madras Central. And this Madras Central poem got him the All India Poetry Prize. He won the All India Poetry Prize in the 90s for this poem. Madras Central. The black train pulls in at the platform, hissing into silence like hot steel in water. Tell the porters not to be so precipitate. It is good after a desperate journey to rest a moment with your perils upon you. The long rails recline into a distance where tomorrow will come before I know it. I cannot be in two places at once. That is axiomatic. Come, we will go and drink a filthy cup of tea in a filthy restaurant. It is difficult to relax, but my head spins slower and slower as the journey recedes. I do not think I shall smoke a cigarette now. Time enough for that. Let me make sure first for the 100th time that everything's complete. My wallet's in my pocket, the white nylon bag with the paper safe in its lining, fine. The book and my notes are in the outside pocket. The brown case is here with all its straps secure. I have everything I began the journey with. And also a memory of my setting out when I was confused, so confused. Terrifying to think we have such power to alter our states. Order comings and goings. I know. Orders comings and goings. Know where we are not wanted and carry our unwantedness somewhere else. So this is Madras Central, which gave him that All India Prize. What I liked, if I want to say very quickly, what I liked here very much is the way he can create, literally create the scene, the black train, that means the steam engines of yesteryears hissing into silence like hot steel in water. I mean, and that the whole energy of the porters, then bringing down. It is in that sense a serious poem because he brings in this whole question of the long rails recline into a distance where tomorrow will come before I know it. I find that very fascinating. And what I liked about this, for the 100th time, that everything's complete. Something like our mothers used to tell us. I think because this is, Vijay studied at the IIT Madras. He was a engineer from the IIT Madras, no less. And possibly this is when he went to IIT Madras, and his mother must have told him 100 things about, his bag and straps and wallet and all, and maybe that's come in. I find it very interesting. The second poem is After 6 Drinks. This is a very interesting poem where it's melancholic, it's maudlin, but it's sentimental also. After 6 drinks, I am grieving for everything which has occurred. To put me where I am and us where we are, I am sorrowing even for what holds us, in a word. For everything I am grieving without bar. I'm grieving for my friends who are laughing now. Let them. My heart is filling so much it cannot speak. Now they are laughing. See only tomorrow how they will cry to God. But of course, the gods are Greek. And they find it so funny, our small disaster. Someone was whispering that hearts are meant to break. And, sorry, someone was whispering that hearts are meant to break. I am willing my heart to beat faster and faster, finishing life quickly. This is no ordinary ache. I am pouring my sorrow into a little cup, just to drown the gods in a libation, nothing more. And when we are being happy and the roof is on the floor, someone can reach out and casually drink me up. That's the poem. So, just as Madras Central, I find this also very interesting. There are 111 poems there, and one is better than the other. But I picked these two because they kind of appeal to me. After 6 drinks, I feel is for anyone who likes a good drink, or I find. Yeah. Okay. This is he has put himself in the shoes of somebody who likes to drink, and has explained what might be going through the mind of somebody who's in that melancholic mood, maudlin mood, but he's brought it out so well. I like this place where he said, but of course the gods are Greek. We have no control, because I was reading a bit of the Greek mythology, and I believe there are some 14 major gods who take care of everything on the planet. And then this thing about, I'm pouring my sorrow into a little cup just to drown the gods in a libation, nothing more. So he gets back at the gods, and I find it very interesting. So thank you very much for this opportunity to read from the Vijay's works. Kaveri is here. I thank Kaveri for joining us today. She has, the good news for Goa is, there is a Vijay Nambisan Trust, which she is looking after. And she has sent 2 wonderful books, one for Kamel College and one for Chaugule College, the English departments, which I will go and hand over personally in the next coming days, So those are wonderful gifts that their literature departments can keep. And thank you, Kaveri, for joining us today.
Thank you, Rahul. And now, Jessica, I want you to go on. After Jessica, can we take Astri? And then Margarita and Tamara. I don't know who else is reading. So if you let me know, it'll be helpful. Stanley, you? Okay. Sienna? What about Doc?
Yeah, I have a poem.
Okay, great. So now the order is Jessica first, then we have Astri, and then we have Margarita, and the rest will follow afterwards. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Jessica.
Thanks, Avia. Thanks for the invitation. So what I'll do today is I'll read 2 of my poems and then 2 poems that I love, and give you very little context, just very brief. So the first poem, the 2 poems I'm going to read now actually were published in Goa, A Garland of Poems. It's an anthology of Goan poems from Goan poets across a few years. I can't remember whether it's 100 years or 50 years, in different languages. So if you get a chance, if you want to know about Goan poetry, Goan poets, grab that book. Salil stuff is also in there, lots of people, edited by Rochelle Potka. So, so the poem I'm going to read, I know I'm saying something heretical now, but I'm not the biggest fan of the monsoons, but there are elements of it that I really love. And this poem that I wrote was, I think, 2016 or 2017. There was a moment of inspiration. There was something happening. The monsoons are around me, and this poem came out. So it's called When the Wind Blows. When the wind blows, it stirs my heart with feather-light kisses about my ears and a heavy-handed tug on the edges of my coat. I smell the storm coming. My heart beats faster with fear and the excitement of something pending. My tussle with the elements is never ending. For a time, kept at bay, then I sway. I dig my heels in, waiting, instead of running in cover. Even before I look up at the sky, I can feel the purple heron hover. I see it diving for cover as the first drops start to swell. Well, hello, lover. That's that one. The next one's shorter. It's called Deep Blue. And I'll read it and then I'll explain or say something about it. Deep Blue. I was born to meet the sky, to dive upwards into clouds, to shout out my name from above and howl mercy into the winds. I befriended thunderstorms and lent my voice to geckos. I stood still for a moment and became the world's oldest tree. I dove in with the earthworms and sated my appetite on dirt. The earth gave me all of this back and more. I only have one more thing to do, and that is to sink back into the ocean. So this was another moment for me when I wrote this poem, but the next poem I'm going to read is by, so people have favorite poets. I have favorite poems written by others. Yeah, and this poet that I'm going to read, Wendell Berry, I'm going to read you one of my favorite poems of his. He's an eco-critic. He's written book after book of poems. He's a farmer, an agriculturalist based in America. And his whole way of life and way of being is he's a farmer, so he's an active farmer. And then at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or whenever he's able to, he will sit in his lands somewhere and just watch and wait and observe and contemplate. And so this poem of his that I'm about to read actually inspired the poem you just heard, Deep Blue. Yeah, I'll read it for you and then I'll tell you about it a little bit. So it's the first poem of his I ever read, and then I just fell deeply in love with it. It's called I Go Among Trees and Sit Still. I go among trees and sit still. All my stirring becomes quiet around me, like circles on water. My tasks lie in their places where I left them, asleep like cattle. Then what is afraid of me comes and lives a while in my sight. What it fears in me leaves me, and the fear of me leaves it. It sings and I hear its song. Then what I am afraid of comes. I live for a while in its sight. What I fear in it leaves it, and the fear of it leaves me. It sings and I hear its song. After days of labor, mute in my consternations, I hear my song at last and I sing it. As we sing, the day turns, the tree moves. What I love about this poem is the combination of movement and stillness, but sometimes I feel when I read this poem out, like it's disrespectful to the poem because it demands so much quiet and stillness and contemplation. And to me, to write a poem like this, I could just see Wendell Berry like staying for years, months or something, and talking about fear coming and leaving you and waiting and watching. I think it's a poem that really speaks to the time we've just been in, COVID-19, where in the middle of, we've been forced to be still, and in the middle of the stillness, we've been forced to go inward. And some are ready to face that and some are not. And for me, this poem, I discovered it 2 decades ago, and it still speaks to me, and I still love it deeply. Okay, so the next, and this is the last poem I'll read out. This is another favorite of mine. I was going to read you a longer poem of his, but I think we should have a chance to hear more from others. So some of you will have heard of this poet. It's Charles Bukowski, very different from Wendell Berry, like the polar opposite, also American, German-American, and he wrote very urban. He was influenced by the beat poets of the time in the 40s when he was very young, but he came into his own in the 70s, 1970s, 60s. And he wrote very urban LA, gritty, raw kind of stuff. I'm not a big fan of the man, but this poem I love. There are some of his poems that really just assail you. And this is one of his nicer ones, less gritty ones. It's called The Laughing Heart. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There's light somewhere. May not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life, sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you. And that's Charles Bukowski. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, your life is your life and my life is mine. We have to, I think, take the philosophy of this at these guarded moments, okay? Astrid, the floor is yours. After that, Margarita, and then Tamara, right?
Thank you. Happy Holi, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And, you know, I connect to what I've heard so far, Bukowski or Salili, your poetry. You will hear why when I read my poem, why I connected to what you were saying. And it's so strange because yesterday I was reading Rukmini Bhayana and these poems. And so when you read them, Rahul, it was just, you know, it was strange. Anyway, my poetry, I chose 2 poems that I have written about, since we're celebrating the Margao Book Club, and so about the south of Goa. Yeah, I just, this first one is called, not Journey to the South, but it's called Heading South. An orange moon is out. The sun hasn't set yet. Jim Morrison on the radio. As we leave Panjim, a Brahmini kite soars above, heading for the south. Bamboli cross, offerings of marigold flowers. Lewis makes the sign of the cross. Everyone honks here, he says, but I don't. Are you waking up the cross? Is the Son of God sleeping? As we drive past verdant fields, ducks in a pond, egrets and herons in the paddy, coconut trees by the highway, a kingfisher perches on a telephone pole. The scent of cinnamon is in the air. We cross the Zwari River, and we're there, South Goa, Margao, village roads to Banauli, the beach, Sernabati. Watching Elvis Lobo play the meanest blues I've ever heard. His fingers speed across his guitar. I wish Braz Gonzalez would pick up his saxophone and play. Braz didn't play outside the church for a few years, but luckily he started playing in public again, but this was written when he didn't. Now my second poem is a bit flippant, forgive me for that. It's called Those Who Eat Seradura. Those who eat Seradura don't count their calories. They down cream and condensed milk without a thought for their livers. Or go out and order brownies in Bibinka. Cholesterol, the least of their worries. They drink coffee with whipped cream. They don't rush to Francisco Colasso clutching their chests. They'll sit around drinking Fini and stub out their cigarettes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've done that journey in reverse many times to go to the capital. So it was really so evocative. Thank you. And I'm a calorie watcher, so I love the second one too. the lovely thing of indulgence. Thank you, Astri. And now, Margarita, shall we
Yes.
have you?
Thank
Welcome
you,
again.
Savia.
We're so happy whenever you join us from Portugal. You're us, shiny
Thank
presence
you.
for us. And please keep coming.
No,
Over
I'm
to
so
you.
happy to be here. Thank you. And I'm happy to be here to celebrate the anniversary of the book club, and also so happy that you welcomed me into the group. It's been a real pleasure in the few sessions that I've been in, but I very much enjoy it. And I've loved all the poems so far. And Astrid, this last one, this is a celebration, so there had to be mention of cakes and desserts, right? Something sweet.
Yeah.
So my poem is also by a beatnik poet, Jessica, an American poet who recently died, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and the last of the beatniks, I think, and a poet that I like very much. And it also it's funny because Rahul, the title of the poet's book that you read was These Are My Homes, right?
Yes.
Well, this one is called These Are My Rivers. So there's some connection there as well.
Yeah.
Jay's book is These Were My Homes.
These were my homes.
These
Okay.
were my homes. Yeah.
Okay, this is These Are My Rivers. And this poem is called In Woods Where Many Rivers Run. In woods where many rivers run, among unbent hills and fields of our childhood, where ricks and rainbows mix in memory, although our fields were streets, I see again those myriad mornings rise when every living thing cast its shadow in eternity, and all day long the light, like early morning, with its sharp shadows shadowing a paradise that I hardly dreamed of, nor hardly knew to think, of this unshaved today with its derisive rocks that rise above dry trees and caw and cry and question every other spring and thing. I don't know, Savi, if I can just share the screen so you can see this poem, because
Yes, I will.
It's got a visual quality to it. The reason why I decided to read this poem is because I don't know, the way how we relate to poetry is also very intuitive. Sometimes it's just like even listening to poems which were read earlier. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the poet, but I don't know the name of the poet, but I couldn't understand it, but I could feel it, I could, because it's also about words and rhythm, and this this poem. Oh, okay, doesn't matter. I'll show you. Can you see? It's like the meandering of the river.
Just a minute.
And it's okay, don't worry.
Can you show it again? I think that will be more visible. Can you show it again?
Yes. Let me see.
No. Is it better? Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Margarita. Yes.
It's like the meandering of the river, and to me, the river is always a metaphor for life, a symbol, a symbol of life. And this poem has that play between, the present and the past, where we are now in our childhood, expectations and memory, and that's why I like it very much. And it's also got many references to nature, which goes with a lot of the poems that have been read so far. So thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. You're reading only one poem? Yes. Tamara, welcome. You bring the sun and flowers when you come in. So.
One flower. I follow instructions, Savia.
Oh, I love that flower. Press it in a book for me.
No, it's not real, unfortunately. But anyway.
Okay.
So I would first of all like to thank everyone who's read all these beautiful poems. All of them were really nice. Astri, I really loved the Seradura one. I would like that. It was just too much fun. And Bhai, the Konkani poems are so nice. And I always think about the fact that, you know, I feel a little sad that sometimes you miss out the beauty of stuff that's written in other languages because, you know, the poem sounded so lovely in Konkani. And then, I mean, the English one still has its essence, but, you know, Konkani was where it was really shining. So that was beautiful. And that brings me to the poem I've chosen today. It's by Hafiz. It's from a book of his called I Heard God Laughing. I've absolutely been obsessed with that book recently. So, and in fact, I had such a tough time choosing one poem. And so Hafiz generally used to write ghazals, you know, I mean, he wrote poems that were ghazals. And I once on YouTube, thank God for YouTube, you can find anything there. I once found a poem or ghazal of his that was sung in Urdu, I think it was sung. And it sounded so beautiful. I didn't understand a word of it, but it sounded so beautiful. And his poems are meant to be sung actually, because he was one of these poets who used to sing in the village squares, and he connected to God. And he apparently used to only write when he was inspired by God, is what they say. So, you know, in a year, he would write 10 ghazals, and that was it, because that was the moment he was. In fact, before I start the poem, I just like to read okay, two more things. One is his name was actually Shamshuddin Muhammad, but Hafiz is a word that's given to someone who memorizes the Quran. And apparently he has memorized the Quran in 14 different ways. I don't even know how that is possible, but in the 14th century, he did that. His father taught him, recited the Quran to him, and he memorized it. So he was called Hafiz because of that. And there's a quote that he says, a poet is someone who can pour light into a spoon, then raise it to nourish your beautiful, parched, holy mouth. So this man is profound to another level. I don't even think I understand his half of what he's trying to communicate in a poem, but it just sounds so nice that I really enjoy it.
Is this the Iranian poet?
Sorry? He's a Persian poet.
Persian
yes,
poet.
he's a Persian poet. Yes.
His
yes.
name is pronounced as Hafiz.
Hafiz. Okay. See, I don't even get his name right.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
you're
Hafiz.
okay. He's very venerated there. So
he is very, yes. I especially, actually, the reason I especially liked the title of the book, I Heard God Laughing, because I found that it was such a playful quality to the way he associated with God. And so before this poem starts, there's a small note that says, it's about the writer, the person who's translated the poem says that, you know, Hafiz describes some of the preparations required for the inner journey of love. To make this journey, we must be light, happy, and free to go dancing. Okay, that is what he. So the poem is a divine invitation. You have been invited to meet the friend. No one can resist a divine invitation. That narrows down all our choices to just two. We can come to God dressed for dancing, or be carried on a stretcher to God's ward. So that's the poem. It's just one among so many that I want to pick. I hope you all enjoyed it.
So can I give you a little snippet about Hafiz and his poems, since you like them so much? So I was in Shiraz, and that's where the mausoleum of Hafiz is. So our our tourist guide insisted on taking us there, and I was wondering, why am I going to a mausoleum of a poet? Like, how popular could that be? And as we reached there, I realized that there were like thousands, more than any number that I had seen together in any of the sites. The number of people at Hafiz's mausoleum for no reason, just in the evening, there were people there. And most of them came there and they were reciting poetry at his mausoleum. There would be even the darban, even the gatekeeper. When you wished him good evening, he would stop you and recite the poetry. So the Iranian culture is so steeped in poetry that it is mind-numbing. A common person will just start spouting poetry of the famous Iranian poets like Hafiz and the others. So yeah,
Wow.
words are so beautiful.
Really, really.
Thank you, Leena. Stanley, could we have you read? You'll have to unmute.
Yeah, whatever. I'll go to this. I have just made it into a little presentation, so you can probably follow when I'm reading the thing.
Okay, great.
Okay, what is it? You'll have to allow me to share the screen.
Yes.
Savia.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
What do I do? I don't know that.
I don't know myself.
Rahul, what do I do? Oh yes, share screen. Done.
Multiple people.
Okay, share.
Done?
Yes.
We can go back.
No.
No?
We haven't done yet.
No. Auntie Sabi, you need to stop sharing screen.
See, we are going to be disconnected in 3 minutes. Please reconnect again.
Oh,
at the top, Savia, at the top. Stop share.
Stop share. Okay. No,
yeah.
This is not working.
No, and next to your share screen, there's an arrow that's pointing upwards. If you click on that, you will get allow multiple people to share screen.
Okay. Multiple participants can share the screen. Okay.
Yes, you're going to have to do this when you'll reconnect.
Okay.
Now what?
So
Can you see it?
Wait 1 minute. Huh?
I'll also be able to read it.
Yes. Okay. Now go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, can we see now? Okay, I can't see anyone. I hope you can see me.
Yes, we can see the screen. Yeah.
So I've just put in 2 or 3 of my poems together. And what I would like to tell you first is that I am not a literature man in the real sense. I like Brother Bao Mauzo. We were commerce graduates who strayed into literature by some fate that got us there. So I've got a few poems which I've been writing something like off the cuff. It started off by reacting to these people who send you good morning messages. Okay, so I earlier I used to be wondering how poets get their emotions together and the hearts and all that rhyming with in song. So I thought I should also put in my 2-bit poetry. And it started, as I said, with the irritation with people who think that the sun wouldn't rise until they send out their greetings. So I thought I'd irritate them right back by sending them short verses based on their messages. Most of them were in fun, but sometimes I was getting a bit serious. So I got a picture, I remember once, of a brilliant picture of a sunrise. I teased back with this. Ah, somewhere a glorious dawn doth break, and someone's breath away doth take. As ever the brilliant sun shall rise, while night crawls to its corner and dies. Sometime then, my darkened soul, to light awake, to light awake. Okay, a little bit more on the same lines. How better to irritate than through philosophy? Are these roses? For that's what I'd love, to smell along life's stints. Oh, targets and aims and ambitions I have, with bruises to show and splints. But of this I'm sure, when I shuffle off this tour, he'll ask me.
Okay, Stanley.
Yeah,
The floor
can
is
we?
yours.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, we were on this last one. When I shuffle off this tour, he'll ask me if I smelt them or didn't.
Very nice.
Hello. Yeah. Then there's another one which had a picture of a huge carpet of white daisies in the dawn. So I relied on Langston Hughes for my inspiration in this. This scene took me over to old Langston Hughes and the poem he wrote called Dreams. Odd ever it seems, with the depth of his views, I become a dreamer of dreams. I dreamt then of dreams that have kept me going. Dementia, they say, and they do keep at bay. And flowers delightful are always growing in my dreams on a cold winter's day. In dreams, I can steadily, happily gaze at the wonders of nature benign, in spite of the snow and the dark wintry haze, when dreams do with memories combine. When dreams and my memories in a cauldron are brewed, there's beauty and tears and rapture, and the pledge of a space where none can intrude, that few can in words really capture. Although the earth is covered today with gloom and suspicion, we dream of the vaccine that's coming our way with hope of life and of more. Then one last poem. This happened because my wife was going out in the north somewhere and I had to stay home. So as she was crossing the Mandavi River, she sent me this photograph. I think all of you can see that. As the sun rises far up the Mandavi, pushing away the dark, the calm of the waters gives to me for versification a spark. I'll take the river, the sun and its gold, and set a nice poem to thee, and fill it with love and with treasures untold, and send it to you just from me. So this was what I sent to her immediately as soon as I received it. That's why I called it off the cuff. And as you can be sure that I got the cheese on my breakfast table after that. Thank you. This is my poems for the day.
Thank you, Stanley.
Stanley, I must say that despite your excuse of a commerce background, you are very much a poet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now, Doc, can we have you?
Over.
Yes.
Yeah.
So should I start?
Please do.
Mine is also, it's nice that you're giving me a chance to speak after Stanley, because mine is, I've chosen a poem by our very own poet, Stanley Coutinho. It's called What's Apprehensions? It's an ode to modern times. This poem is in response to several good morning messages that we get on WhatsApp. Some people do it as a religious duty, others as an OCD, that is an obsessive compulsive disorder. And still others think, like the ancient rooster, they think that their crowing pulls up the sun over the horizon. Last month, as so often before, a rumor went out that those images with all their good wishes actually contain some sort of virus that can hack into your account, which in turn has its dark, dire consequences. So some of them stopped sending us those prefabricated greetings. The images did hack into our poet Stanley's brain and soul, and hence he wrote this poem. So I shall start his poem. Suddenly, have all of them turned sober and sedate? They send their morning wishes without images of late. What a trap this WhatsApp has turned out to be, they say. They're said to be a fish in what they sent to us each day. Those pictures in their 1,000 words did greet in myriad ways, telling you it's a brand new day in no uncertain ways. But then you can't be sure about what's happening these days. They'll hack into your cell, they say, and leave you in a daze. And just when they all thought that sending pictures was just fine, and happily, so many did to forwarding incline, sent those greetings every morn, no reason nor a rhyme. For proper words, no struggle search, for loving thoughts, no grind. I marvel how those pictures had our feelings all but smothered. To speak our hearts, and in our own words, no one was really bothered. But now, at last, come touching words, good wishes freely flowing. The morning, once again, feels good. I hear a rooster crowing. This is by Stanley Coutinho.
Okay, thank you. That's nice, really, Stanley. Sienna, would you be reading, Doc? Would you be reading? I love your ferns. Would you be reading?
No, Savia.
Okay. Then Lena, would you be reading? Norbert?
Yes, I think I'll do a small reading. Can you hear me?
Okay. Shubhamgi, would you be reading?
Yes, yes.
Great.
If we
So
have
after
time.
Norbert, you go. And then after that, Pinoshka. Pinoshka, is the time okay with you?
Yes, good.
Okay. What about you, Rita? Will you be reading? Rita, will you be reading? I'll send you a message. Okay, so that's the order. And then last I will go. I have a little poem which is not my own. Thank you. Norbert?
No, Savia.
Yeah.
No, I'm.
Rita, you're not reading.
Okay. Am I clear?
Norbert?
Hello. Am I clear? I always have an audio problem. Am I clear?
Yes, we can hear you, Norbert.
Oh, we can
yeah,
hear.
we can hear you.
Yeah. First, I'm not a poet, and I hesitated to read a poem, but I wanted to do something for the second anniversary of the Margao Book Club. I'm so happy to be part of this book club, and I was there right from the beginning, from the inaugural ceremony. So I looked through my archives and I picked up a poem.
A little louder, please.
Okay, sorry. Now? Is it better now?
Yes, now it's better.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay, so I looked through my archives and I picked up a poem that I had written a couple of decades back. It's a bit of a juvenile poem, but I thought I would read it for this special occasion. Spending time, like melting moments in time, captured in a timeless space, spent on a drive along uncharted territory. Chit-chats on a beach bed, strung like white necklaces on Kandoli Beach, stretching to touch the Aguada tip. A brisk walk on a crisp night along the splashy waves, skipping to avoid wet pants or wet or warm mood. Spending time on a hot Sunday evening, time made in spite of, time made with care to spend carefree, sipping chilled cappuccinos laced with rum and coffee beans, flicked with a whisk of almond cream, shared feeling, shared as to a friend, close but recent met, an opening up, an understanding, shared a real connect, a light touch and a warm hand felt, brief moment of pleasure, yet a lifetime moment to always treasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Norbert, after this we have...
I think it's me.
Yes, please. Shivangi.
Hi,
Can I
good evening,
quickly say
everyone.
I want a chilled cappuccino laced with rum right now?
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to.
Yes, come to.
I am going to read this poem. It's one of my favorite poems, and I keep on going back to this poem because it's a constant reminder to be kind and to be gentler with myself and with the world. It's a poem called Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lamaris. She is an American poet, award-winning poet. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers say, bless you, when someone sneezes. A leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes, when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed a cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it. To smile at them and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. Thank you. So yeah, it's a poem celebrating minor, graciousness within a community, and it's a very hopeful and a poem about simple cares. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivangi. Can we have Finoshka? Finoshka, you'll have to go visible. Yes, lovely.
Hi, I'm Parashka, and I'm more into performance poetry, and the title of my poem is Done and Dusted. I'm tired of fake friends, not to forget the fraudulent lovers. But then I found you. People envied the love I could bestow upon you, and then they tried taking it all away. They tried taking it all away, and I had nothing more to give. You know, the best feeling is when you realize you're someone's first love and you try your best to be their better half. Until they find someone better than you, and you think to yourself, when will the sun shine and when will the roses ever bloom? Will the storms ever end? Because I've got tornadoes twirling in my heart, and the pain never eludes my soul. Can the broken heart be mended? I ask myself. Then I found you. You were the missing piece which ended up breaking the whole puzzle, and now I'm stuck in this void all alone with nowhere to go. The misery never seems to end. And I think to myself, where did we lose it all? Or when was it that you fell out of love? And I'm still here thinking if you ever loved me, or was I just one of your mistakes? Because you weren't mine to give, they said. So I stole what was rightfully mine. Now that you're 6 feet under, I can keep you here with me forever. because baby, we are not yet done. And that's how I like it. Thank you.
That's pretty dark. Okay, that's a nice voice, Pinoshka. Great going for you. We've had a really exciting and fulfilling session. I'm going to recite a poem which was written in 1937. I love people's voices in poetry, where people's issues become central and change the world for a better view of the world. So this poem was written in 1937. It created quite a furore in the US when it was written. The author is someone called Abel Meeropol, and he wrote under the pseudonym of Louis Allen. The poem was called Strange Fruit. This was later sung by a mixed race woman, essentially black, called Billie Holiday. And Billie became very popular, but they never allowed her to sing more than two lines of the first stanza, because it was a poem that questioned the very heart of America's democracy. So the poem, as I told you, is called Strange Fruit. It's about black lynchings. And you will know that the author is actually Irish and he is a Jew, but he wrote under a pseudonym which was black. And he saw a photograph in a paper of black lynching, black men hanging from a tree. And that inspired him to write the poem, which became world famous. I don't think he wrote more poetry, but this poem in many ways made the world sit up and think. Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black body swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of a gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh, and the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather and the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for a tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter crop. I've always found the strongest voices coming from, people. I remember when I was working in a slum in Bombay, there was a poem which created a ripple among the young people, and it was later sung into a song. I will maybe recount it to you at another time, but children would go and sing it to their teachers. It reminds me of a line from a great poet. We are going through COVID, we are going through so many things. And so a young voice asks the poet, will there be singing in the dark times? And the poet says, yes, there will be singing in the dark times. And what will this singing be? Asks the voice. And the poet says, the singing, yes, the singing will be about the dark times. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to